Okay, in this video we're going to be looking at inequalities, and we're going to teach you a few different notations and how to write them. Let's begin with three different columns in our paper, and I'm going to begin with x is greater than 2. Now that refers to all numbers greater than 2, and we're not just referring to 3, 4, 5 and above, we're referring to all the decimals and fractions and irrational numbers also above 2. If we were to graph this on a number line, we would say here is the number 2, which we will not include, as well as all the numbers to the right, which we will include. To represent the fact that we're not including the 2, we use an open circle. In interval notation, we say don't include the 2 and continue to positive infinity. When we do not include the 2, we use parentheses at the beginning of that notation. And as far as positive infinity goes, we technically don't have to write the positive sign there, but I do like to use it. Now, x greater than or equal to 2 on the number line would be represented by a filled-in circle at 2 with everything to the right of it shaded. And when we shade in the arrow at the end of the number line, that means and this pattern continues to the right. The only difference between these two different sets is the inclusion of the 2. In interval notation, we will use a squared off bracket to denote the inclusion of the 2, and then go on up to positive infinity. Anytime you use interval notation, it always runs from small to large and never from large to small. And infinity is not a number, it is a concept, and therefore you can never have something equal to infinity, and there will never be a bracket with the infinity. It will always be in a parentheses. If you want to designate or represent x is less than 2, on the number line that would have an open circle at the 2, and we would be shading to the left hand side. And in interval notation, that would run from negative infinity on up to 2, which we will not include on the right. Likewise, if we have x is less than or equal to 2, we would shade in the circle at the 2 and still have everything shaded to the left, and we would have from negative infinity to 2 inclusive using the bracket in the interval notation. Now let's show you a few other things that can occur here. Let's say we have something like 1 is less than or equal to x is less than 3. This is known as a compound inequality, and sometimes we would pronounce this as x is between 1 and 3. I'm going to say inclusive of the 1, and that way I would represent the equal to on the left hand side of that interval. But there's a betweenness notation there. On the number line, we would have a filled in circle at the 1 and an open circle at the 3, and we would shade between those two numbers. In interval notation, we would have a bracket on the left and a parentheses on the right to represent the fact that we're including that left-hand boundary but not including the right-hand boundary. And you could mix and match all the equal to's and not equal to's in the solid dots and the open circles in all the different patterns you wished. Now, one last notation would be that of all real numbers. On a number line, it's kind of a boring graph because you'd basically be shading in the entire number line, left and right. Maybe I'll put a little 0 in the center there. But in interval notation, we would say from negative infinity to positive infinity. And that's the nice, neat way of writing all real numbers down.